first topic. We're going to get into the viral clip between Joe Rogan and Sanjay Gupta. So there's a lot to get into. So I guess first let's watch the actual viral clip, and then we'll have a little discussion. Then watch, I think, Don Lemon then doing his little reaction. And I think there's another thing I wanted to... Oh, yeah, then Sanjay Gupta's post, article he wrote about the interaction.
About the interaction.
Yeah, about his time on Joe Rogan Podcast. So
yeah, he put it like he felt like he was in danger, right? Or something like that. Like, that's the tone of it. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he wasn't... we'll react when we actually read it, but he definitely used that kind of language. But play the... clip, Ian.
A flattering thing, I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah,
they're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it winning the Nobel Prize in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is...
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is Ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem that your news network lies?
Sanjay's a small man.
Well, I don't.
Dude,
I mean, what did they say?
They lied and said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said it was
a bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think, 250 million people have taken it around the world?
More.
I get that.
Way more.
So,
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on
the
ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied? Outright lied about me taking horse dewormer.
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on the podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
All right. There's some more to it. Go check it out if y'all want to, the full 3 hours. But that was the particular part of the entire podcast that went viral, that clip right there. And so before we read this article, what do y'all think? Initial reaction?
I think
interesting that it's on CNN. How to, I guess he couldn't ignore it once it went viral. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of there with Joe, where he's like, literally the part where I related to Joe the most too is the part where he goes, "Dude," because that's that like, bro, like, dude, come on, I'm telling you, man, like, you're messing up. I know what you're doing. That's why I didn't
real here. Let's be real.
Yeah. I felt like one of my friends telling me, like, "Come on, man! Like, what the hell?" Like, so, yeah, that was my reaction. I honestly found out later that this guy wrote that article with that like specific tone. I had no idea that like they were in damage control either. I had just seen the scene and be like, "Oh, man, that was funny." I thought it was just funny. But I mean, Joe has points, bro. He's like, "Come on, man! Like, why are you slandering me? Like, what the hell, dude?"
Oh no, dude! It just seemed like somebody was getting bullied. Even though the conversation, he was agreeing. Obviously,
he definitely felt that way. Once you read this article, you can tell he definitely felt that way a little bit.
Like, yeah, the doctor felt like, oh, yeah, you're right, technically. But honestly, you could also tell he almost didn't agree with Joe.
Well, the full podcast, like, he actually, like, this was probably a bad segment because it definitely put him in a corner. He was probably expecting it a little bit, but wasn't expecting it, if that makes sense.
I mean, he had to expect it, like you said.
Like, he should have been better prepared. Yeah. Like, you're a doctor for
also,
CNN.
You were just on CNN talking about Joe Rogan. And you're now going to the Joe Rogan show.
Like,
you just think he might bring it up, right? Somewhere along the line.
Somewhere along the lines. He might insert that in there somewhere, somehow. Like, he should have been better prepared for that. He didn't look in this clip. in that particular segment very well prepared for that.
Looks uncomfortable. Like
Yo,
everybody
he looks
hates
super
Raymond.
uncomfortable.
Is everybody loves Raymond? I think
All right.
everybody loves Raymond.
Let's read the article real quick. All right, so this Sanjay Gupta, he wrote this after on October 14th. He said, tell me when you guys are done hearing it, but I basically want to hear like the first two little paragraphs. So, well, not paragraphs, little segments. In today's highly segmented media world, most of the people who watch and listen to me every day on CNN have already received and accepted the message about the utility of vaccines, the importance of masks, and how we can all work together to put an end to this pandemic. So I realized that if I was serious about trying to communicate public health, I needed to go to a less comfortable place. I needed to go into the lion's den and accept an invitation to sit down with Joe Rogan for more than 3 hours. Hey, that's good. I'm okay with that. I agree with that. I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever had a conversation that long with anyone. Seriously, think about that. We sat in a windowless podcast booth with 2 sets of headphones and microphones, and a few feet between us. Not a single interruption, no cell phones, no distractions, no bathroom breaks. Real quick pause.
Hold on. He should take it. His license should be taken. He almost killed me. Almost choked when you said Lion's Den. Lion's Den? You mean the guy who does interviews for a living?
There's more, but I get what you're getting at. Hold on, there's more.
Yeah, it also kind of puts the framing of like Joe is the bad guy. You know what I mean? Or they are in contest with him.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, in a way they are.
Like,
he has a better reach than CNN. Like, he's destroying them view-wise.
No, but the reference to Lion's Den makes them the opposition, not competition-wise. Like, when he says Lion's Den, it's insinuating he's going in the midst of the enemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like he's basically saying they're in direct conflict.
Mm.
And so he's like, oh, I have to go in there. And so I think, honestly, that's why Joe wasn't like, what the hell's your problem, man? Because he has to have given respect to him for coming on his show to know that, like, it's just them two in a room and he gets to talk to him and ask him directly. So I'm sure Joe had a lot of respect when he was talking to him. And it kind of sounded like it when he was being like, he was being forward, but he wasn't being like mean or aggressive.
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't being disrespectful. Yeah. And plus, if you watched Joe Rogan's content before, you should know that's just not who he is. So that just, for me at least, proves that he didn't do proper research to the person on the place he was going on. If that makes sense.
You saw the whole episode?
Huh?
You saw the whole episode?
No, I didn't see the whole episode.
Okay, I was about to say, what was the vibe like? I was going to ask.
Oh, no,
what
it was
was the
chill.
rest of the conversation about?
No, it was chill. They had many different conversations. They talked about I forgot the specifics of weed. They talked about weed. They talked about particulars of COVID. What's it called? Gain of function. What else did I watch? That was part of that because it was 3 hours. I didn't really care to watch 3 hours worth of it. Honestly,
It's a lot.
It's
a lot of
exactly,
content.
and I don't really care. Like, forgive me, but I don't care about Sanjay Gupta. But they did talk about things, and it wasn't contentious. The only reason why that was contentious in the conversation was because, like, he kind of like, I don't want to say blindsided. Like we prefaced before, like, you should have known that was going to come up if y'all get on the COVID conversation. But it's just that I guess he just kept pressing him, like, not giving him any room. He's like, no, we're talking about this. You're going to address this. You're going to answer my questions. You're not deflecting or anything like that. Like, nah, we're addressing this. Because CNN, they said some things, and I'm annoyed about it, which I think is justifiable.
100%.
But
100% justifiable.
my only contention with this so far before we get the rest of it was just, I think maybe it's me. He hasn't sat down and had conversations with people, not even this 3 hours, just no distractions, no bathroom breaks, a single interruption, like no cell phone. Like, you just don't have conversations like that. Like, is that a biased perspective of me to have? Because I feel like, well, even before all of us started doing this podcast, we do that all the time. Doc and us back in college with our buddies, and John even before then in high school. Like, we would sit down and talk with each other, no distractions, and just talk. Like, I personally, maybe I'm weird, find it weird that apparently that's not a norm for him. Like, and it was very apparent in that clip that he's not used to having a.
No, it fits the character because honestly speaking, he kind of, what's up, Phil? He kind of looks like a coward.
Fill up.
It's like in a situation where for him to associate, I can't get past this Lion Den thing. I'm sorry. So for him to associate that with a Lion's Den or something like that, just the energy in the room. I got from the room, one person was scared to get punched in their face. One person hadn't even thought about that being a possibility.
Well, okay, let's finish this because he has to get to that point.
Sanjay seemed like he was intimidated.
Yes, I would agree.
And so the fact that he was intimidated in an arena where he didn't need to because there was actually no even iota of physical aggression or anything like that, shows he's technically speaking a coward. Like, so when he's writing this article and talking about speaking for somebody for 3 hours, when you speak to somebody for 3 hours, you're vulnerable. And what do cowards not like being?
Vulnerable.
Exactly. You're running. It's cowardice. And so, like, to me, I'm not saying like that's his whole character, but that part
It's
for him
revealing
in
to a
that
degree.
room, he couldn't even. It's also a thing to be too flustered to read the room. I don't want to say panicked or whatever, but he was too flustered to actually understand that he was not in a lion's den.
He wasn't any kind of danger, nothing
at
like.
all. At all.
We're just here talking, man.
It's
That's
like,
it.
for example, when me knowing I'm a good citizen, I don't try and commit any crimes, I mind my business or whatever, and I'm walking on the sidewalk, and it doesn't matter race, color, gender, or whatever, and somebody sees me walking and they move. You know what I'm saying? They're not actually any danger because I'm me, but just the environment that they believe they're in,
Their perspective
their
of
perspective
reality.
of it is, oh, let me just take my ass to across the other side of this street so I could avoid some danger.
Yeah.
And so, like, they might go home and tell a crazy story. Oh man, I saw this. I saw this crazy guy. Fuck color. Fuck all that.
I was
shit.
so scared. My life was
saw
in danger.
it-
I had to take these maneuvers to
I
protect
busted
myself,
left
and stay
into
safe.
I could have been going to the same apartment complex as them or whatever, and it's I was being followed. Da 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 da. But you know what I'm saying? That's just what he has going on right here.
Yeah, let me finish these last two paragraphs because he actually just dives deeper into it a little bit. So, no distraction, no bathroom breaks. At a time when there is a desire for shorter, crisper content, responding to abbreviated human attention spans, one of the most popular podcasts in the country features conversations that last exceptionally long and go particularly deep. That's a good thing. Many friends cautioned me against accepting Joe's invitation. Quote, there's little room for reasonable conversations anymore. One person told me, he is a brawler and doesn't play fair. Another warned. In fact, when I told Joe early in the podcast that I didn't agree with his apparent views on the vaccines against COVID, ivermectin, and many things in between, part of me thought the MMA former Taekwondo champion might hurl himself across the table and throttle my neck, but instead he smiled and went off, and off we went. That's what I wanted to get to. Why did you have that perspective of Joe? Did you not watch his content? Do you not know he's not that kind of guy? Like, you think he's gonna jump over the table and choke you out because he said something you don't like? That you said something he doesn't like?
If you apply
that's
that,
disrespectful in a way.
If you applied that to
No, I think you're getting riled up by that one too much. I think he just meant that like that was the initial view, and then he had a different.
Oh, no,
Okay, wait, hold
yeah,
on,
you're
hold
right.
on,
It is
hold
the
on,
initial
hold
view,
on, hold on.
but the fact that he
I
had the
agree.
initial view.
I agree.
Okay, go on.
I think you're right to get riled up though, but Doc, the reason why I think he's right to get riled up about it is because it's not necessarily what he actually thinks as, oh, I was going to get my neck riled up or whatever, and whatever you said was accurate. That's just him stating how he thought it was going to be, and then he moved forward. The fact he was comfortable saying that. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Now, if we were to bring LGBT, if we were to bring all these other social SJW issues that are going on, right, and you applied any of those filters to Joe, would he be allowed to almost either stereotype or judge him based off of what? Because he was a former MMA fighter? He was a Taekwondo champion? Now, if those are just adjectives or something you use to describe somebody, right? What makes him any different from somebody who would say that about a person whose race? So if I'm pretty sure he sees himself probably liberal sided, but the same qualities you have to, Sanjay.
Okay.
So the same qualities you would take for you to judge somebody before actually knowing them in that way, especially when it comes to violence. I took offense to that. I don't think that's fair for him to, even though I get what he's saying and it's not a big deal in the scope of things, but his comfortability and with his words to say that is not, it don't sit right with me, because if you applied it to anything else or any other situation, that type of assumption would be frowned upon. Like,
I disagree, man. I think he really just openly said a thought, and he admitted a fear of somebody who does have very real potential of harming him, and thinking that potential was
Real
a possibility.
potential? What do you mean?
He literally says it. MMA and former Taekwondo champion might hurdle. Like, the person has the potential. They literally have trained to maintain the potential. Whether or not they do or they don't is the thing that we should actually be looking at. They didn't.
So what's
So
the
for him
difference
to
between?
say his
let him
thought-
finish. Let him finish.
So for him to state a thought and say like, "Oh, that was like a potential that could have happened at the back of my mind," and I was like, he's basically saying, I was genuinely scared of that, but that's not who he is." And so
Why?
we went on.
But that's the problem I'm
Why?
having.
Because
Is
there is-
genuine fear.
The only thing is because he was an MMA fighter. That's what I'm saying. What's the difference between control, having self-control between an MMA fighter and a regular
The same
person?
can be the same can be applied to like a lot of the thoughts and statements that Joe Rogan makes. Like he speaks out loud about his thoughts, and you know what I mean. Like you have to, if you're gonna censor him for speaking his mind on this situation where he's just like, well, I know this person is trained in conflict, and I was genuinely scared of it, but that's not what happened. That's not who they are. He's not saying that the person's a killer. He's just saying his mind. You know what I mean? And if you're gonna allow him to do it, or to Joe to do it, then you also have to allow this guy to do it.
It's like John said, he
I'm not
went in
censoring him.
intimidated,
I'm
though,
saying,
and that's weird.
I'm not saying he should be censored. I'm saying,
I'm not saying
the
that either.
comfortability with that association. So if you apply it to other things, like, and this is, I guess, bringing it or whatever. If somebody's like, "Oh, Doc, he's
Muay Thai
Hispanic or
trainer.
something,"
Or you can put it that way.
or he's Hispanic or something, I'm sure he's had a rougher life than me. I assumed he had a rougher life than me, and then I've talked to Doc and found out he lived a regular life. The judge, why the association is my problem. No matter what you're judging, it's not that he shouldn't say what he said. It's the fact that he's comfortable thinking that way that bothers me. Because it's just like, then I can just associate
can't control
anybody
somebody's
with anything.
thoughts.
I can just associate anybody with anything. But a thought is different from violence when you're talking about being hurt. You're now putting something on somebody's character too. It's different when you're saying, "Oh, I thought I was going to be scared of this jumping out of plane. I jumped out the plane. I wasn't as scared."
It's just a
That's
weird point to
different.
make. Like, why do you need to make that point about Joe Rogan? Like, I guess that's where my disconnect is. I don't understand. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have that thought, you shouldn't have that opinion, you shouldn't have that feeling or that fear. That's not what I'm getting at. I just genuinely am confused why he had to make that point in this article about meeting Joe Rogan,
And I
because
don't
it goes
like
to
he
show
was
me he has no idea who Joe Rogan is, and he went
Exactly.
in that podcast with this. I guess I
Preconceived.
should appreciate things
There's
because
a
it's showing.
prejudice. It's not. That's what I'm saying. That's what my problem with this is. He's comfortable in saying that about this man, and this man has not given him any clue that he would do that to him. And so that's my problem. Anybody can voice anything they want to say, but anytime you associate just because maybe a profession, skin tone, religion, whatever, I don't care what it is. It's the same shit to me. It's prejudice.
So let me
Because
ask you a
he
question then,
trained
Doc.
You
himself.
can't control people to do that, though. Like, you can't control what's in their heads. And the man was just stating a paradox. It's like me saying, like, oh, all people who jump out of planes are idiots and radical. But then when you actually meet them, they train hours and hours a day, and they're extremely safe, and they make it to where, like, doing an extreme act is
I would
very
have the same
safe.
issue with that. Why
And
why are you thinking they're
We're
idiots
not
when you
telling
don't
him
know
not to
anything
say it.
about
We're
it?
saying he was comfortable putting it in the article when it had no place in the article.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so if this is an article, then all of this should serve a purpose. Every word, every sentence should be getting us
Purposeful.
to a purpose. What purpose did it have that he thought it would wring his neck?
I think he just wanted to state the paradox of the situation that he was in. He
What
believed his
paradox?
previous judgment was in one direction. The paradox, Gene, is that he saw visually, and he knows for sure that this person is in MMA and in Taekwondo, and he was just like, "Oh, the potential danger was there. I was genuinely scared, but that's not who he is, and
I
so that's
agree with
not
you,
what
Doc.
happened."
I agree with that. But why state it in the article? In this article specifically about not that.
I actually think it is going to depend on the following like paragraphs. Because if he continues with that tone and just keeps the whole like lion's den motif going throughout the entire article, then that's why he stated it, because he wanted the attention to be like, Joe is a lion, Joe is like a predator,
Boom.
and I
He
was in there.
victimized himself.
If it changes tones though into the following paragraphs where like, oh, and then we just had like a
Here, let's
a
read the
decent
next paragraph to
conversation,
see how it goes.
it's
and then,
just it's a turn. It's to introduce him a certain way, but then there's the turn.
Okay, so we have
Actually,
so here,
lines.
yeah, perfect. Here, let's read this
Go
one.
ahead.
Into the Lion's Den. So we'll read that one, and then we'll go to the next reaction. So, Into the Lion's Den. It wasn't what Joe Rogan thinks that most interests me. It's how he thinks. That is what I really wanted to understand. Truth is, I've always been a naturally skeptical person myself. One of my personal heroes, the physicist Edwin Hubble, said a scientist has a healthy skepticism, suspended judgment, and disciplined imagination, not only about other people's ideas, but also about their own. It's a good way of thinking about the world, full of honesty and humility. I live by that, and I think Joe made to some extent as well. He will be the first person to point out that he is not a doctor or a scientist who has studied these topics. Instead, he seems to see himself less as a rapscallion and more of a sort of guardian of the galaxy, pointing out the missteps made by large institutions such as the government and mainstream medicine, and then wondering aloud if they can still be trusted to make recommendations or even mandates for the rest of us. To many, he represents a queen bee in a hive mind, advancing free will and a personal liberty above all else.
Well,
so I mean,
he is
Why
carrying on the
Lions
motif,
Den?
but because he's carrying the motif that Joe is a predator, essentially. Like he's someone who prides himself on combat, and so he's just gonna run with it. It's just theming for the article. Go down to the following paragraph.
when I said this to Joe, the MMA fighter, he paused, sat back, and listened for a while. I asked him, it's not possible to advocate strongly for personal freedoms, but also recognize the unique threat a highly contagious disease represents. He seemed to agree, but then quickly countered with a common misconception about the overall utility of the vaccine.
It was like Joe and I were in the octagon.
It was like Joe and I were in the octagon circling one another. He stared at me intently now, eyebrows raised. I admit that the vaccinated, and then he goes into the vaccine. But
Well, he probably broke a sweat typing this article.
But yeah, it's like Doc wanted to know. He does keep that motif, the fighter, and I went into the ring with a fighter. But
It wasn't a fight.
But yeah, it's not a fight. I understand what you're trying to say, Doc, about even though I have trouble accepting the whole paradox thing, but I understand what you're trying to say.
I agree with Doc saying that.
No, I mean it's not that I disagree with it. I just think it's a weird way to view it is all. And I'm not saying Doc's weird way to view it. I understand how he's viewing it. I'm just saying for him to view it that way is weird. And I'm not trying to say he can't view it that way. It's just it's weird. And then for him to then speak on it, associating Joe Rogan with this capability of violence, even though I understand that he is capable of violence, but to then associate him that he is able to, he will actually do it. Like he's actually capable of just randomly doing it in the middle of a podcast on his own platform is just a weird.
And let me tell you, this is really what he did. In the beginning of the article, he set the goddamn setting. He set the vibe. Look, I'm in a room with this dude who could kill me. Keep that in mind when I tell you this story. That's what he said. Keep that in mind when I tell y'all this story. Then he starts to tell the story. So we talking, and Joe, the MMA fighter.
In the octagon with this MMA fighter.
Remember, me and him were like, we were in the octagon. So now I'm brave too. I'm a fighter too right now. In this scenario right now, I'm tough. I'm tough.
Yeah, I agree with
because
you. It's weird.
I'm facing him in the octagon, circling one another. Now, there are points in here where if he really believed Joe was the predator, his ego speaks out. His ego pops out. He wouldn't say circling one another because that gives him some predatory characteristics. So he refuses to admit that he's really actually small, but still wants to be the victim.
Well, the way
of the
he's
situation.
coming across in the article is not how he came across in the actual interview.
No, he
which
stared
is funny
at me
to me
intently
also.
now, eyebrows raised. Now, my question is, was he thinking this when he was talking to Joe?
Well, it
like when
depends,
Joe looked
man.
at him, he was like,
let Doc.
It also depends, man, because you have to consider like his personality too, man. Like maybe he's just not eloquent like in person, and especially in the situation like that. Like even Gene stated, like if this situation isn't normal to this guy to be around people and talk in person, and he's not confrontational, maybe he's actually laying out his thoughts in this paper. There's a chance that this paper is just him trying to re-propagandize himself for CNN and stuff like that.
Exactly what it is.
But there is also a possibility that this afterthought is literally an afterthought of the situation.
Because he went on Don Lemon, the damn lemon.
I guess now let's watch the Don Lemon real quick. Yeah, pull that up. Yeah, that one. There you go. Boom. And let's watch this real quick. I couldn't find the original, so I had to steal it off of the Rising. Thank you, Rising.
Claims that CNN lied about his use of ivermectin to treat COVID-19. Let's watch.
He did say something about ivermectin that I think wasn't actually correct about CNN and lying, okay? Ivermectin is a drug that is commonly used as a horse dewormer. So it is not a lie to say that the drug is used as a horse dewormer.
That's not what you said.
I think that's important, and
Well, that's
it is
also not
not
accurate either. There's two
approved
different versions of
for
ivermectin.
COVID. Correct?
That's right. That's correct. It is not approved for COVID, and you're right. I mean, the FDA even put out a statement saying, basically reminding people, it was a strange sort of message from the FDA, but they said, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, stop taking this stuff, is essentially what they said, referring to ivermectin. Now, I think what Joe's point
It
is...
has been
is
approved
that
for humans, but not necessarily for COVID, right? Yeah.
That's correct.
Oh, so Don, you just want to finish making his points for him?
Yeah, Don's a snake, man.
Dude, it's scummy as fuck. I can't stand that
Yeah.
man.
Dude.
First off, that's so disingenuous. Like, ivermectin is not exclusively for horses. Like,
Also,
that's
they
why
never
this is so
stated-
disingenuous.
They never stated the verbiage wasn't it's used as a horse dewormer.
It can be used for horses, so
But that's
because
not
it
what the
can be
verbiage
used for
was.
horses,
He
it
said-
is a horse dewormer,
He
John.
said it is a horse dewormer, making it the sole function that it serves. That was not. And Sanjay, my boy, again.
You're the CNN doctor, bro. What are you doing? You
I
should
think-
be letting
I
him
think,
lead this
honestly,
on.
Joe and Don Lemon should have a podcast because they
Oh,
literally
bro.
spoke to this guy the exact same way.
They used him
They
as a
gave him-
mic. They both bent
Yeah.
him over, put him on a stand, and used him as a mic. Because
Yeah.
on both podcasts, you would walk away. If I watched both ones, I would think that he agreed with both times. I would watch this and say, yeah, you know what? He was right. Don did all the talking, but he agreed. And I would watch Joe Rogan's and say, well, he did agree with Joe Rogan. They shouldn't have said. He literally out his mouth said they
That's
should
why
not have said
his
that.
article is not
They
consistent.
should not
Like
have said that. But he was in the Lions Den David, strong man, with nothing but a knife and a piece of rope. I don't know what this guy. I pity him. Actually, I just pity him. I actually don't have anything else to say about this guy. I pity him because it just doesn't make sense. It's right there. He said one thing on one podcast. He said another thing on CNN. Don Lemon is a snake. We all know that. His name is Lemon. He should put a sour taste in your mouth. And we just like I don't know, dude. I don't know.
But they both set him up in like yes or no questions where the obvious answer was the yes, but you can just feel from the tone of like the question they're like, wait, but they do use it on animals, right? Especially horses. Like, yeah, it is that. But if you were to look at the data, he's like, but horses are the most used, right? For now, yes. Aha! Like they just like they put him in a corner, and then Joe Rogan did the exact same thing to him.
And I ain't gonna lie.
Although I think Joe had like more of a like, dude, just give me a straight answer. Like that's all. I
Yeah,
want. Don Lemon was more like,
this is the end.
tell me what
I'm
I
taking
want
you
to
this
hear.
way.
Yeah, I'm taking you this way. Make me right. That's all like Don Lemon was saying, really.
He really felt he dropped the mic there too, which shows how catty he is as a person. I
Man.
won't speak to why he's catty, but he just seems like a really catty guy.
All right, I think let's move on. We talk about this too much. Fun conversation, though. I was expect this.
Yo, you made it to the end. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching Fake Deep Thinking. If you like the show, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and to share. We really appreciate everything and appreciate you. So take it easy. Peace.
Peace.
Have a good day.